Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Maya with Simply Bloom. So today I'm bringing you along with me to pick some apples. You can see my chickens. They're all coming out wondering if I have treats. I have a family coming out that wants some apples this morning, so I ran out to pick it and I thought I would bring you with and just kind of show you how to tell when your apple is the proper stage to harvest. So first thing you want to do is know your variety. That helps. If you don't know your variety, that's okay. We can work around that as well. But if you know your variety, you can do a quick search. Just Google, type the name of the variety, and then ask what season it is. So apples have an early, mid, and a late season. That's when they bloom, and then that's also when they ripen. So early season apples, they bloom first, and then they're also the first for the fruit to ripen. And then it's mid-season, late season, late season. So once you have that under control, and if you know that, then you're able to kind of figure out what month your apple will begin to ripen. Next thing I look for is, are the apples starting to drop on the ground? Now there's a couple of reasons for why an apple can drop. One of the reasons is if it's not getting enough water, the tree will start to drop fruit, and it just holds on to the water for itself to give the tree life. So if you see all these small apples starting to drop on the ground, it could mean that it's not getting enough water or the tree is thinning the fruit on its own. A couple reasons. But if it's nearing that month that you know and it's starting to drop apples, you can take an apple off the ground, eat it. If it tastes good, it's good to go. It can start to drop apples and it not quite be ready on the tree. Some fruit does start to ripen first. So once it's starting to drop apples, you can go into an apple and just do the wiggle test, I call it. I like to do what is called a wiggle test. So you just go up to an apple, and if you gently tug and it comes off super easily, it's good to go and it's ripe. Like these, I know these are not ripe. I am tugging and tugging and tugging, and it's holding on firm. Leave it because it is not ready yet. This is an this is a late season tree, Harold Red. It needs to go through a first frost for the sugars to really intensify and sweeten. So this will be our last tree that we harvest. And you can see there's lots of apples on the ground. My birds are enjoying them. There's a bunch over here. Find someone with animals that you can load up the bad apples that you wouldn't necessarily want to eat, and they can feed it to their livestock. Okay, I hope that helped. I know when you're first getting into apples and stuff, it can kind of be overwhelming of when to know it's ripe and when it should stay longer. I used to work at a garden center and people would come in and pick all the apples off the tree. For example, that late one that I just showed you, Harrelson, and they're like, it's the most disgusting apple ever. It was red. We thought it was done. We picked it. So definitely no, because a lot of the late season apples need that frost. Otherwise, if they don't go through the frost, they are bitter and they are nasty. So kind of know your tree, and reach out to your local garden center, ask questions. You can leave questions down below for me, and I'll do my best to answer. I think we have about 60 apple trees now, so I wouldn't say I'm an expert because I am just a home gardener, but I think I have a little bit of experience under my belt. So I'm just going to pick a bucket of apples for the family. So let's get started. When I am just picking for someone else, I like to take these 5-gallon buckets. This had a spreading U in it. I don't even remember planting oh, no, okay. I don't have it. I never planted a U. Someone gave us their old buckets from when they planted stuff, and they work great if you take a 5-gallon bucket. And if you just put like a grocery bag on the inside, I know there's a lot of states that don't use grocery bags anymore, but if you have any old ones laying around, you can just slip a grocery bag down in it, That way, you know, you're not getting dirt or anything, or you can wash your bucket. And then I fill it up with apples, and it's so easy to just grab the handles, take it out, and then here you go to the person that you're giving the apples to. This is our State Fair apple tree. It's one of my favorites, and it's an early season, so it is slightly more of a softer apple. So your early season apples, they're normally a little bit more soft, and then as it goes to mid and late season, the late season's nice, hard, firm. So I like to say the early apple ones, they're good for like apple sauces and stuff like that. Your late season, they're great for holding up for baking because their apples don't go completely just mush when you bake them. They still hold their shape. State Fair is that perfect mix of sweet but tangy. I don't know. So good. So juicy. You could hear that crisp still when I bit into it, but it does go soft quickly. Has that beautiful red skin with that beautiful white flesh on the inside. Very aesthetically pleasing and delicious. Everyone who tries this one loves it. Like I said, we have about 60 apple trees. We have some varieties that people try and they're like, yeah, it's good. And then they try this one and they're like, oh, I want buckets and buckets of this one. So I definitely recommend this as an early season variety. Keep in mind, if you're planting apples, they do need pollinators. So if you're getting an early season, make sure you get a second early season. If you get one early and one late, their bloom times are different and they won't pollinate each other. If, for example, you really want one early and one late, then I recommend getting a crab apple, because crab apples bloom the whole time from early to late season, and they will cross-pollinate with normal apples. So if you're looking at a crab apple, I highly recommend Centennial, which is actually this tree right here. You can see the branches are loaded. This is what the Centennial looks like. Really bright, I like to say like cherry red, although a lot of red cherries are darker. What's that one cherry? Comes from like Washington, or at least that's what my husband tells me, where it's like that brighter red with the yellow. It looks exactly like one of those cherries to me. Very good. Not bitter. Delicious. This one has a bit more of a yellow flesh. This one's a little bit more firm than the State Fair, but delicious flavor. Growing up, I just thought that crab apples were disgusting, bitter, couldn't be eaten fresh, needed to make jams out of them. This is not the case. Still a decent sized apple, delicious, fresh. Love this crab apple, Centennial. So this Centennial tree will pollinate my early apples, my mid apples, and my late apples. So just keep that in mind. If you want two different season of apples, but you don't want to get another early and another late to pollinate those, just get one crab apple and it will pollinate all the apples. Okay, you guys, here's my bucket of apples for our family friend coming over. I think this is all she wants, otherwise when she gets here I might have to pick a second bucket. I will stay tuned, because I will, at the end of the year, we always do this big hurrah. We watch the weather. When it gets down anything lower than about 28 degrees Fahrenheit for frost, it gets iffy. Sometimes apples will not survive anything under 28 degrees Fahrenheit. So we watch the weather. A lot of the late season, this is the late season. I like the backdrop of all the apples. Sometimes the more frost they go through, the sweeter they get. So we'll let them go through several frosts. And then we watch the weather and we see nights getting down below 28 degrees. Then we go out and we just do a massive harvest. And I mean massive, like we have 40 buckets of the 10 gallon. This is just the 5 gallon. Like 40 10 gallon buckets just full, overflowing with apples. So I plan on doing another apple harvest for you. Stay tuned for that. That's just really fun to do. Then we pull out the ladders and the apple pickers. So stay tuned for that. But I hope this helps. If you had any questions about when and how to harvest apples, and I talked about, you know, the bloom times and the getting the same season. So I hope that helped. If you have any questions, leave it down below in the comments. I will do my best to answer it for you. But other than that, I hope you have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye. I also wanted to say apples are like wine. They taste better with age. So a lot of apple varieties won't start producing fruit, like real fruit. You might get an apple or two on it, but it really won't start producing for 3 to 5 years. My all-time favorite apple, Zestar, you'll start getting a few apples here and there, but by about year 7, that's when it really takes off. So have patience, and on the first few apples that you get, you might taste it and you might be like, ew. Like I said, it's like wine. As the tree develops and gets older, it will taste better. Just make sure it has lots of water, good fertilizer, and give it time, and the apples will just mature into something delish.